But all there will ever be is what's happening here, and the decisions we make in this moment, which are based in either love or fear.
A mind that's frightened obviously cannot love. A mind that is self-concerned with its own ambitions, greeds, fears, guilt, suffering, has no capacity to love.
In the presence of fear, there is no room for joy. There is no room for love, and love is in a way pure joy. Fear inhibits love. You are either operating in fear, or you are operating in this mode which we will call love. In the presence of fear, every necessary component for love changes. Compassion becomes selfishness. Trust becomes suspicion. Joy is replaced by fear itself. Love is looking inwards, being in touch with yourself and what you are feeling. Fear is looking outwards. What should you say? What should you do? How will it seem? What will others think? What will others say? What will others do? When you're operating in fear, you're withdrawn inside of your mind. You're distracted. You're not actually present. Whereas when you're operating in love, you are very much here. You're present constantly. There might be a distinction that has to be drawn between the kinds of love that we're talking about. Perhaps there needs to be a definition for what we are referring to when we use the word love. I am referring to a mode where all of your actions come in a place where there is complete absence of fear. But somebody else could use the word love to describe love for their partners. And in that case, a lot of people would think you say that it's either fear or love, but I love my partner and I'm terribly afraid about losing them, about something happening to them, and so on and so forth. But the question is that fear that you're talking about an indivisible component of that love? Can that love not exist without that fear? Has there not been a point in your life where you've only felt the love part without the fear? And if your answer is yes, and if the answer is that your love can exist without that fear, then doesn't that mean that this fear that you're talking about is a separate emotion from that love? Look, all of your fears could be very well founded. Your fears a lot of times are there to protect you. It's just a question of when does that fear and all of your actions that revolve around it begin to debilitate you instead. When does that fear begin to cost more to you than what it provides you with? As we've said, in anticipation of a possible detriment which you might suffer in the future, you many times choose a certain detriment in the present because you understand it to be of a lesser harm. But what happens over time is that this certain detriment which you have chosen in the present eventually accumulates to far surpass that possible detriment which you could have maybe suffered in the future. Your fear-oriented choices then give you such a restricted life, such a limited life, void of joy, because you're afraid to do things. To the point that then it becomes a question of whether the protection that you get from your fear has costed you more than what if you were actually dismissing that fear. You're afraid to do something, say something, go somewhere, approach somebody. And it all adds up to give you an unfulfilled life. Now, I want to repeat myself. I'm not saying that your fear is misplaced. I'm just trying to make you aware of what is happening. Your fear could very much be there to protect you. It's just a question of when does it begin to inhibit your ability to enjoy life instead.
And you cannot be genuinely loving by intending to love.
You cannot be genuinely loving by intending to love, because then you're operating in fear. There is an underlying motive which is based on fear that makes you think that you should try to love. In love, there is no planning, there is no scheming, there is no calculations which are based on fear. In love, you just are. Things are. I want you to understand this. You could never actually defeat all of your fears. There is only one way that you can truly be free from fear.
Observe it.